So to make the flaky pastry, I've got in this bowl 225 grams of strong plain flour. So that's bread flour with a high gluten content. And I sift it into the bowl with a pinch of salt. Now for the fat I'm going to use, I've got 80 grams of butter and 80 grams of lard. So I've got them at room temperature. So I'm going to mix them together until they're evenly mixed. I'm going to divide it into 4. So 4 sections, and I'm going to add 1 of those, so 1/4 of the fat to my flour, and I'm going to rub this in. So rubbing my thumbs over my fingers and lifting the fingers high. So I want it to resemble fine breadcrumbs. When we did rough puff, we didn't rub it in very much because we relied on the large pieces of the fat to give the flakiness to the pastry. But with this, we're going to add the rest of the fat and roll it into layers, so that will give us our flakiness. So that's the fat rubbed in, so you should be able to see it's quite fine. Now it needs about 2 to 3 tablespoons of really cold water. So that's the 2 tablespoons. I'm going to add it and mix it. And if it seems a little dry, then you can add the 3rd tablespoon. And when it starts coming together, I can then put my hand in and work it together into a ball. So it's slowly coming together to get all the bits. Squeeze it together. So I'm going to put some flour onto the work surface. Just work the dough lightly into a ball. Then I can start rolling it out. So I'm just going to put a little bit of flour on top as well. And then I'm going to start rolling this out. So I want to roll it into a large rectangular shape. So I'm turning it to make sure that it doesn't stick to the work surface, and also to try and make sure it stays in a rectangular shape. But I never flip it over. I always just keep it moving sort of around, sort of with the same side on the top. what I'm going to do is just mark that into 3 roughly. So with one portion of the butter and the lard mixture, I'm going to spread that over 2/3. So the first thing I'm going to do is roll up this, well not roll up, fold up this bottom third and then bring the top third over. So then there's butter between each layer, and mark the ends. Now this needs to go on a plate and into the fridge for about 5 to 10 minutes so that the butter in it starts to firm up a little bit. So when the pastry is chilled again, I need to roll it out again, so a little bit more flour, and I shall put a little bit on top. So I'm going to have it lengthways this way. Oops, a little bit of my butter has come out. I left it chill for about 5 minutes. It could have probably done with a little bit more. So actually, as it's coming out, I would normally put it back in the fridge for another 5 minutes. When I've layered this one, I'll actually put it back for 10 minutes to make sure it is really firm. So it's a bit easier to roll out this time because it's got more fat with it. The first time it was quite a dry mixture that you were rolling out. Okay, so make sure it hasn't stuck and just mark it into 3, then another portion of the fats, spread it all over the top 2 sections, then bring the bottom section up over and the top section down, and press the ends just to seal it, and then pop that in the fridge. I'm going to do mine for 10 minutes because, as I said, the butter was a little bit soft still from the first rolling of it, and you want it to be fairly firm so that it helps to form those layers. It just doesn't all run out of the pastry. So I'm going to put that back into the fridge. So now the pastry is chilled again, I'm going to roll it in the same way to add the last portion of the butter to it, the butter and lard mix. So start by rolling it. Still being a little bit impatient because some of the butter is still soft. So really this pastry might seem time consuming, but there isn't actually that much hands-on time, but you do need to allow time for it to rest between the rollings. so you can sort of be getting on with some other cooking in between. A bit more flour. So imagine it's divided into 3. Spread the remaining butter and lard mixture over the top 2 areas. And then fold the bottom section up and the top section over, and press it down well to seal it. Then I'm going to let that chill again for another 5 to 10 minutes. So once the pastry has had all the fat added to it and it's been chilled, it needs one final rolling. So the same thing, 3 times as long as it is wide. So it needs to be just a little bit longer. And then I'm going to fold up the bottom third and fold over the top third and seal it. So that's my pastry. I can put it on a plate or I can wrap it in some cling film. I've got a piece of cling film that it was wrapped in just now. So I'm going to wrap that up and then chill that for at least 10 minutes before using it in my recipe.